This is Analytical Media. We are a consortium, a group of therapists, college professors, and well-published peer-reviewed authors. You can find our book on the subject of psychopathy entitled Descent into Darkness at Amazon.com. The book analyzes the murder of Travis Alexander by Jodi Arias from the perspective of psychopathy. Today we're going to talk about the twisted path of Alvin Taylor. So the story is all about a confessed serial killer, Alvin Taylor. In the quiet countryside of Wisconsin in the 1980s, Alvin Taylor, who was described as a charismatic traveling nightclub singer, had a secret life where he went around and killed people. Seemed to be very friendly, very nice, very likable, but he would travel as a nightclub singer, and in between appearances at the local club, he would murder people on the average of once a year. He seemed perfectly normal to people, but he was actually quite delusional, and he had auditory hallucinations. And this is a quote, that he was a soldier of God, and his job in life was eliminating evil. Between 85 and 87, Taylor carried out 4 cold-blooded murders across Eau Claire, Dunn, and Washington counties. He was killing people he believed were threats to him or morally corrupt. He was caught and arrested and tried, but he was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect on the murder charges. Not guilty. He was not guilty because he was mentally diseased. So he didn't go to prison because he wasn't guilty of any crime, but he was committed to a mental hospital, the Mendota Mental Health Institute. Now, you could say he got off pretty easy, and maybe he did, but he's been in prison there, he's been imprisoned in the Mental Health Institute. He can't leave, he's imprisoned there, and has been for 40 years. 40 years, 4 decades. And that's still not the interesting part about him. Let's talk a little more about his early life. He was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He grew up apparently a normal guy. Eventually, he became a traveling nightclub singer. But as early as 1969, he experienced what experts later described as his first psychotic break. At a bar, Taylor became convinced that strangers were plotting to kill him. This paranoia extended to people on a bus and even a motel maid. Sounds a little bit like targeting. This is when the auditory hallucinations began, and those hallucinations became the source of his delusions. He believed external forces, external energies, were talking to him through the radio, the television, and even light bulbs. And they were sending him divine messages because he was to become a soldier of God, or very frightening messages. People who knew him at that time portrayed him as being, quote, a religious fanatic and a pacifist, someone who doesn't want violence. By the 1980s, he believed he was a soldier of God, and his job on this earth was to eliminate, quote, evil people. This would be done by following the guidance of an entity known as, quote, the Force. The Force. The first person killed in July of 1985 was Robert L. Williams. Taylor began by killing him in Eau Claire County, Wisconsin. Taylor believed that Robert L. Williams had himself killed someone. So Taylor killed Robert L. Williams. Taylor shot Williams in the head with a .357 Magnum revolver. In a calculated effort to hide the crime, Taylor buried the body of Williams in the backyard of the house he was renting in Spring Brook. He covered the body with quicklime to accelerate the decomposition. This indicates that he was being logical. Quicklime will accelerate decomposition. It's a fact that Taylor knew. Taylor did not want to go to jail, and he knew that having killed Williams, he could go to jail. So it implies that he knew the difference between right and wrong. He didn't want to be caught. He went to good efforts to conceal the crime from the police. These are all things that might make one think that one was sane. They didn't discover these remains until 1987, which was after Taylor was arrested. And this shows what Taylor was like, what he was thinking, what motivated him. It wasn't random violence, but it was a mission from God. And he believed he had divine orders from God to kill evil people. Less than a year after having killed Williams, Taylor killed James A. Severson, who was the next door neighbor of Taylor's. He was 42 years old. Again, this murder occurred in Eau Claire. Severson was stabbed to death in his apartment. Taylor did it. He admitted all these things, by the way. He admitted it, and he said the reason that he killed him was that Severson embodied evil. It is interesting to note that Taylor killed these people in his own small community while being a traveling musician, nightclub singer. His mindset deepened into a self-appointed role as an undercover police officer enforcing moral order. He picked up information from everyday places like Chinese restaurants and electronic devices, things that had electricity running through them, including light bulbs. Taylor's third victim, these are people he's admitted to, occurred November 1986, and that was Daniel Lundgren. Daniel was 33 years old. That was in the city of West Bend, which is in Washington County. He killed him by shooting him to death. Taylor believed he was involved in a crusade where he selected victims based on perceived threats or moral failings of the victim. He was guided through his auditory delusions. He was being talked to by the force through electronic devices or electrical devices like light bulbs. This helped him evade the police, the idea that he traveled around from community to community. His final murder was Timothy Hayden in March of '87, and this occurred in Menomonee, Dunn County. Hayden was 27 years old. He was a maintenance worker at the University of Wisconsin. Taylor shot Hayden multiple times in the head with a .22 handgun at his home. Taylor got caught in part because he attended Hayden's funeral, and this drew suspicion from the authorities who had begun connecting the dots. Once arrested in 1987, Taylor confessed to all 4 murders during his interrogation, reiterating his position of being a soldier of God. He went to trial, as we said. He used the insanity defense because he was facing 4 counts of first-degree murder. Taylor pleaded not guilty by reason of mental disease. He was diagnosed by the court-appointed psychiatrist as having a psychotic spectrum disorder. He was then committed indefinitely to Mendota Mental Health Institute in 1988. He did not go to prison. He was not guilty. Experts attribute his killings to severe delusions, where he saw himself as divinely ordained to eradicate evil. He's been in that institution for 40 years. His psychosis went into remission in the 1990s. He was taken off of medication. He was then re-diagnosed with an unspecified personality disorder featuring antisocial and narcissistic traits, plus substance use disorders that were in remission. This is an interesting story, but it's not the most interesting part of his story. He wrote an unauthorized autobiography. He wasn't allowed to write it in the mental institution. It was called A Window into His Mind. He wrote it in Mendota, and it's claimed that he self-published this, an autobiographical book, around 2010, without permission from his doctors or the institution, which was a major role violation. The book detailed his life, murders, and delusions, which offered insight into the psychological underpinnings of his crimes. As one evaluating psychologist, Dr. William Merrick, noted in 2017. So one psychiatrist or psychologist, I guess in this case, Dr. William Merrick, noted that was positive for him. That was good that Taylor did this, that he wrote it. It was a good sign. However, others like Dr. Deborah Collins viewed it as evidence of poor judgment, boundary pushing, and ongoing risk contributing to his condition. No public title, excerpts, or copies are available. And we've researched this very heavily, and we have not been able to find anything at all. But it is referenced in court records as a self-published work. Now, here's the interesting part. The guy's been put away for 40 years. He's been unmedicated now for a majority of the time. He readily admits to killing 4 people and trying to kill a 5th person. But it wasn't his fault because he was mentally ill. And that's legal, that's the law. And he did not go to jail. He was never found guilty, but he was found legally insane. But being found mentally ill and innocent of a crime is not a get out of jail free card. He never went to jail, but he was imprisoned in a mental hospital. And he wasn't sentenced to 25 years to life. He wasn't sentenced to 25 years with the possibility of parole, which are oftentimes legitimate jail sentences. He was sent to a mental hospital indefinitely, which means as long as it takes. Well, that's the important part of the story. That's what makes this so interesting. This serial killer wants out. He is petitioning the court to get released. He emphasizes his recovery through therapy and work, his own work. Now, he was put in there because he was mentally ill, with the understanding that he would be released when he was no longer mentally ill. That's the understanding. That's the logic. That's the legality of this. When they say he didn't go to prison, because you can't go to prison if you're mentally ill of a crime and found to be mentally ill. You're not responsible for your actions, so you can't be guilty. You're not responsible because he was mentally ill. Well, he went to prison. A different kind of prison. The windows are barred, the doors are locked, you have your room you're assigned to, everything's controlled. This isn't a vacation, it's a state-run mental health hospital. And he wants out. And legally, he might have a point. The law may not be adequate to keep him imprisoned. So here at Analytical Media, you may think that we would favor his release because he's been cured. He only went there because he's mentally ill. He's cured now. So he's got to come out, and that's what it's supposed to be. He's supposed to come out when he's cured. And he's been in there, after all, for 40 years. There are lots of people convicted of murder who have gotten out in 1/4 that time, half that time. But it's 40 years, and he hasn't gotten out. You may think we favor that, but if you have followed our work with the Manson killer, Patricia Krenwinkel, she wants out too. She committed murders. She admitted she committed murders for Charles Manson. She wants out. Taylor wants out. And lots of people think they should get out, but not Analytical Media. And it's not that they haven't been punished enough. This has nothing to do with punishment. This doesn't mean this is rehabilitation either, because if you're there for punishment, when you serve your sentence, you get out. That's the debate. Is it punishment? Do we imprison people for punishment? Or do we imprison them for rehabilitation? Well, Taylor's apparently, from the reports, been rehabilitated. He no longer takes medication. He was diagnosed with a personality disorder, which isn't that bad a thing. There's no delusional behavior there. There's no hallucinations. It's a personality disorder. Has he been rehabilitated? Has he recovered? All signs point to the fact that he has been. Nonetheless, we don't care if he's been rehabilitated. We don't care if he's been cured. We don't care if he's been punished enough. We care about public safety. We don't ascribe to the debate of punishment. You did this, it's going to cost you 7 years of your life. You did that, it's going to cost you 25 years of your life. Then you get out. That's the way it works. Or rehabilitation. Well, you've been there 18 months and you're rehabilitated. Out you go. We don't believe in either concept. We believe that people are imprisoned and should be for the protection of society and the culture and the other people. Taylor has willingly admitted to killing 4 people. As we've pointed out before, he's proven that he is a murderer. We made this argument with Patricia Krenwinkel. We're not in favor of her getting out. I mean, she's an old woman now, and it's not because she hasn't been punished enough. She probably has been. It's not because she's been insufficiently rehabilitated. She probably has been. Probably. But I can't guarantee it. No mental health professional could guarantee that Krenwinkel or Taylor would not kill again. Could not kill again. No mental health professional would sign a paper that says, if Patricia kills again or Taylor kills again, I will voluntarily go to prison for the rest of my life to make up for the death of so-and-so. Never would they do that. They could never say, she won't kill, he won't kill. But what they can say is that they proved they would kill. Under the right circumstances, under the influence of Charles Manson, under the influence of these voices coming from the TV and light bulbs, in Taylor's case, they would kill. And if the TV started talking to Taylor again, or the light bulb in the bathroom, would he kill again? Well, we would say yes, most likely. He's proven to us he would. Duplicate the circumstances of his murders, and chances are he would murder again. There are many delusional people who do not murder. Do you think everyone who hallucinates or think they're a soldier of God, do you think they all murder? No. Some do, some don't. We can't tell for sure who would not from the outside, but we can tell for sure who would. And Patricia Krenwinkel and Taylor have both told us through their actions that they would kill under the right circumstances. Now, if the circumstances aren't right, maybe they won't kill. But they've proven that if the right circumstances come along, they will kill. And though it's very sad, we wish there was some way that they could both get out and spend a few years out. They cannot be released to the general public. You could never do that. When Taylor admitted in the interrogation that he killed those 4 people, when asked the question, "Are you a murderer?" he put up his hand and said, "Yes, I am." We got to take him at his word. We just can't be sure that he won't. So from the perspective of protecting individuals in our culture, or if we can make it more personal, protecting you or your mother who didn't do anything to anybody and lives on that lonely road with the house at the end, to protect her, neither Krenwinkel or Taylor can be let out, in our opinions. And we mean that. We're not just using your mother as an example. We're saying we cannot gamble even one person's life. A person living thousands of miles away from where Taylor will live, that one life, the chance that he might end that life, or Krenwinkel might end that life, is not one we would advocate or be willing to take for that very reason. We know these people will kill under the right circumstances. And we believe if the right circumstances occur again, they probably would kill again. Maybe they wouldn't kill again, but that doesn't matter. The fact that they might means they have to sacrifice their life. They have to stay in prison. Think of it this way. We have our animal lovers out there. And some of us are really big animal lovers at Analytical Media. You're an animal lover. You have your dog. You raised him from a puppy. And one day, you have a dog treat in your hand, maybe a bone, which you intend to give to the dog. And on your way over to the dog recognizes the dog biscuit, the treat, and bites you seriously on the arm to try to get that biscuit. He bites you, shakes you, finally lets go. And when you are bitten, and I have been, your entire arm goes numb, from a mid-sized dog up to large. It goes numb. It's not pain you feel, it's a crush to the nerves, and you're paralyzed in that hand or arm for a short time, minutes. Now, the dog eats the bone, the dog's fine. The dog bone eats the dog bone, the dog treat, the dog's fine, he comes over to be petted. Can you trust him? Let's say you do trust him. So, okay, all's forgiven. I'll go to the emergency room, get a few stitches. We'll forget all about this. And one day you're bringing out his dog food to him. He's eating on the back porch. And you put the bowl down, and you notice that the bowl is a little too close to the wall, and you don't want him to push this all over the new siding on the house or splash it. So you reach over to grab the bowl to pull it out 3 inches, and the dog bites you again. Now, you know there are 2 kinds of dogs. The ones that would never bite you and never did. I don't care what you're doing to that dog. You turn it upside down, you kick it, it yelps, but it doesn't bite you. And there are dogs you would trust with your life, and should, because they wouldn't bite you. But there are dogs that will. And what do you do with those dogs? Well, some people have them put down because they can hurt people. I don't know what you do with that dog. That's up to you. But you know it's an issue. You know that you can't trust that dog around your grandchildren or any child or the kids next door or the kids that ride their bike down the street. You know that. And as a matter of fact, there's evidence that you knew that your dog was potentially a biter, and you let the dog out or off the leash, or took it to a park on a leash where there are kids, and a kid gets bitten, you could be sued for a whole lot of money. You could go to jail. People recognize that danger. For the same reasons, we're saying Taylor should stay imprisoned in a mental hospital. He cannot be let out because he might kill your mother living at the end of that road. That sounds silly, it sounds ridiculous perhaps, but anyone's life should not be put at risk. He's killed, no doubt about it. Can't be innocent, he's admitted it. And he can't be released. Legally, perhaps he's going to be released. And the only thing that might keep him in prison is the fact that some of those therapists may fudge it a little bit because they know he shouldn't get out. They know the law allows for him to get out. And so they're going to fudge it a little bit just to make it look like he shouldn't get out. He's not ready. He hasn't rehabilitated. He hasn't recovered from his mental illness. Shut up. Really, as professionals, we recognize he has. From the reports, he has. He has no active psychosis. And he hasn't for decades. For maybe 30 years, he has had no active psychosis. They said he killed because he had an active psychosis. Well, he's cured now, and he wants out. And though we have sympathy for him, and we truly do, we can't support that. Or Patricia Krenwinkel's Manson murders. We can't support her getting out either, even though she's old and a very old woman now and not in very good health. I believe she's in her late 70s or later 70s. Spent all those years, all those decades in prison. We can't take a chance that somebody else with a charismatic personality and hypnotic qualities doesn't enter her life. And I don't know that it would take that much for either one of these people to kill again. They have agreed to kill. They were willfully killing. And that puts them in a special category. People we know who will kill. Doesn't mean they will, but we know that they would. It's in them. It's possible. It's potential. They've proven they would kill because they have killed. And at Analytical Media, we say no. We feel bad for them, but they can never be given the opportunity to kill again. This is Analytical Media. We thank you for joining us, for listening to this, for subscribing. We do appreciate every subscriber. We truly do. And we hope more of you will subscribe because as we expand, we go to more people. We can help more people. Subscribe, comment, share. These are all ways to help us, to help other people, to help us spread this message. Join us in the next video. Until then, take care. Hope everything goes well for you.